Good afternoon, everyone. Virgo here. It's April 26, 2021, and once again, happy Monday to everyone. I want to talk to you about something that is extremely important right now. We all know that the internet is not a safe place. It's also not a nice place. More often than not, we run into people who would rather harass, troll, or just simply be rude and disrespectful to one another than attempt to try to come together as any kind of community. The watchdog community has always been different than that. We've always looked out for one another in terms of the creators and watched each other's back. And the biggest part of the community, you as a subscriber, have always tried to walk the line of being classy and backing your favorite creators. Many times, many of you have come to us as creators and said how different the watchdog community is and how we are a strong community because we stick together. Very recently, the watchdog community has come under attack. Now, we've been attacked before, many times. We've been attacked for exposing individuals that have ideologies that are extreme. We've been attacked for calling out scammers and con artists. But this has been a little bit different. See, there's a couple of parties that are out there that get real pleasure and enjoyment out of other people's pain. And one of the ways that they decided to do that was by attempting to dox people. Now, just so that you understand what the meaning of the word doxing is, I know most of you do, but some of you have asked. Doxing is when you publicly publish, through voice or writing or both, personal information about someone who has not readily given that information out. This group of frauditors who are doing this are doing it to people that they feel they can do actual damage to, without realizing what the repercussions are for that damage. But there's a few other things that these people don't realize either. Before I go into all of that information and why it is so devastating and could technically end up being even more devastating than it already has been for people, I want to go over some of the new online harassment techniques so that people are aware of what not just the watchdog group deals with on a daily basis and has for the last 5 years that I've been around, but in every other venue on every other social media platform also. So imagine this. There's a knock at your door, pizza delivery. It's the 5th time in the last hour that you've had to say to a delivery person, "No, I really didn't order anything." And that's irritating. Half an hour later, there's another noise at the door, and this time it's forced open, as your house is stormed by the heavily armed and aggressive special response unit of your local police department. They're responding to a tip that warned them of a hostage situation in your home. Now that's not just irritating, that's downright dangerous. Why is all this happening? Turns out you've come to attention of the cluster of mischief makers that are in one of the internet's dank corners. You've been doxxed. Your private information has been posted everywhere across social media, and a harassing and character assassination has been done by video on YouTube. Perhaps even by an anonymous image board user who implored others to do with it as you will. This might sound far-fetched, but these sorts of internet-enabled attacks have become more and more frequent in the very recent years, and in fact, the Federal Bureau of Investigation that I spoke with has been cautioning people about swatting since 2008, but it's been really prevalent since 2020. It has become common to see articles about how these attacks have affected politicians, both Republican and Democrat in the United States, celebrities, journalists, businesses, video game streamers, and public servants. Now, as I explained, doxing, which is named for documents or docs, is the act of the release of someone's personal and identifiable information without their consent. This can include things like their full legal name, their social security number, home and work addresses and contact information, phone number, and family information. There's no set format for a dox. The doxer simply publishes whatever information they've managed to turn up in their searches. Sometimes these even include the names and details of the target's family and close friends. As a tactic of harassment, doxing serves two purposes. It intimidates the people targeted by invading and disrupting their expectations of privacy, and it provides an avenue for the perpetuation of that person's harassment by distributing information as a resource for future harassers to use. Technology and security expert Bruce Schneider has argued in the past that from 2015 forward, there's been massive amounts of doxing in comparison to prior to that. Everyone from political activists to hackers to government leaders has now learned how effective this attack is. Now, the other harassment that I was speaking of, which is called swatting. Swatting is named for the U.S. Police Special Weapons and Tactics teams. It's the act of making a false report to a police officer with the intent of having a heavily armed response team sent to the target's home. This is made even more problematic by the militarization that local U.S. police forces have undergone in the last decade through incentives like the Department of Defense's 1033 program, which allowed the Pentagon to provide military-grade weapons and equipment to police forces on a free, permanent loan. Technology journalist Sarah Young described this as assault by proxy, as the police can seriously injure the targets of these swatting attacks that are not even guilty of anything. So unfortunately, the technical barrier to doxing or swatting a person is really, really low. A doxer can acquire information on their target through a variety of legitimate public sources, or more nefariously, through social engineering techniques. Swatting often just requires the name, phone number, and address of the intended target. Swatters often use cheap or freely available anonymizing technology to disguise their identity or to spoof the phone number of their target when making their false report, a move that makes their crime difficult to police. These attempts also prey on the good faith basis with which emergency responders treat their callers, and as a result, valuable police time and resources are diverted completely away from where they need to be. So, we're going to talk a little bit about how you can protect yourself, but as you see, there are people that are online right now that the Watchdog group has been attempting to try to deal with, who have decided to attack just because it was fun. Not because they really believed anything was going on that was any kind of a problem. Just because they think that it's fun. You have people like Brian Sessions and the like that have decided that's their role. That is their role. They get to do these kind of things because they're just downright ugly, and even admit on their videos that they're going to go as low as they can possibly go to do as much damage to the watchdog group as they possibly can. Not because there's a vendetta with any particular person in the watchdog group, but because there's a vendetta with one person that they viewed as being a part of the watchdog group. And even out of Brian Sessions' mouth, everybody else that's a casualty, not his problem. When you have this blatant kind of disrespect, this blatant narcissism, this entitlement that takes nothing into account but their own desire to do as much damage as possible, to character assassin as many people in one group as possible, and to polarize the group from their subscribers, if at all possible, just because it gets them likes and views? Well, then it's time to actually start updating these individuals on just exactly what can happen. So let me tell you guys a little bit of a story. Very recently, there is another creator who has decided that he's going to start doxing people. It's fun. In his mindset, it's fun, and his entitled rage allows him to do things that are fun, and he has freedom of speech, so what difference does it make? And if we don't like it, well, then we can just call the cops. Ironically enough, it is illegal to dox in most states. And in the manner that it's being done, it's specifically illegal because of the massive amount of danger that comes along with that doxing. In a venue that they don't even understand that they've gotten into. Let me explain. Several days ago, there was a threat that was made. The threat was that they were going to put out a video doxing me. The video said, and Virgo Triad's real name is, and then they left it at that. Without recognizing or even watching my previous videos on what I do, they really had absolutely no idea what could potentially happen and really didn't care. That's very clear. I knew they didn't have my name, and the reason I knew that is because I have no online footprint at all. None. You can't link a photo of me back to anything. You can't link anything to a personal name of any sort, because I have no online footprint. On purpose. But unfortunately, as has happened many times in the past of the Virgo Triad channel over the last 5 years, there are people that still try, and there are people that try and get it wrong. Now, for you to fully understand the impact of this, I need for you to hear some history on the Virgo Triad channel. About 3.5 years ago, there was a gentleman. I put that very lightly. There was a man in the Sovsit group that did not like the fact that I read a Southern Poverty Law Center article. It was an article that called a friend of his a Sovsit. And the fact that I read that gave him license to put out a call to all of the Sovsits out there by way of arrest warrant, their own arrest warrant. And this is what the arrest warrant read. The arrest warrant read that the owner and operator of the Virgo Triad channel shall be arrested by whatever means necessary, including violent means, should I protest. The warrant also said I would be given a fair trial before the hanging. Now, a lot of people looked at this and said, that's a ridiculous warrant. Why would anyone believe that? And that was not the point. The point of this warrant was to alert the other Sovsits in the Sovsit movement, and there are lists that you can go to so that everybody can find everybody else in the movement. That's some information I haven't provided to you guys before, but it exists. The FBI did not find this funny at all and was very upset. And as a result, this group of individuals decided that they were going to put out a statement that said, well, we're not really going to leave it in the arrest warrant death by hanging thing. We're going to move it over to the human tribunal area. And she'll be tried over there, you know, for human rights violations or something. Because apparently, as an American, I didn't have the right to read an article online out loud. It was my fault that the Southern Poverty Law Center called them a Sovsit. Therefore, I was to pay for it. And any Sovsit that came in contact or might have known who I was or where I was to turn me in black-bagged to these people. It wasn't very long after that this group of individuals was located, and where they were located at was in Florida. There were some other individuals that were located that also made very serious death threats against me, and not too long after those threats that came through and were turned over to the FBI was one of them arrested for sending a BOMB out to a politician. Make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, these are very, very dangerous individuals. The fact that I was simply reading an article of the Southern Poverty Law Centers because I wanted for people to understand where these people came from. Remember, this was 3.5 or 4 years ago, when I was trying to get the point across that there was a financial scam that they were running across the YouTube platform. Heavy, heavy, heavy amounts of money were being spent for packages that were total scams, and I didn't want people falling for it. So as a result, I was giving them additional information on the movement. Over reading an article, this is what these people claimed they were going to do to me. And as I said, one of these people that threatened actually made good to a politician. All right. I want you to keep that in mind as I give you a little bit more information. So Saturday night, Roland and I did tea with Roland and Virgo, and we were having a good time talking about the misunderstandings in the frauditor community of the A1 auditors, the misunderstanding of the First Amendment. We made it fun, and there was a lot of people in the chat, and it was just an enjoyable hour and 15 minutes. Within that time, there were about 6 sock accounts that came in there. And since the video was never made of supposedly telling everyone in Doxxing Virgo Triad, they decided they were going to bring their sock puppet accounts and get in the chat and start pushing names out. One particular name, I won't mention the whole thing, happened to pop up, and I was confused. And the reason I was confused was because I didn't recognize that screen name. Not the screen name of the person who was sending it, but the name of the person that they were supposedly talking to. See, I stupidly, because it was not me, did not pick up on the fact that they thought they were doxing me. But in reality, they were calling someone else's name out. About the 3rd time around of them doing that, I realized they think that's who I am. So, most people might say, you know what, Virgo, it's no big deal. These people are idiots, obviously. They had the wrong person. Just go on. And under normal circumstances, that would be okay for the average creator. Yeah, sure. That's who I am. Ha ha ha. Except for one thing. See, it's not the people that are doing the doxing that would concern me in this case. It's the people who would love to get in touch with me in ways that are not, hello, I'm here, may I take a picture of you? It's the people from 3.5 and 4 years ago that put that arrest warrant out for me. That fake arrest warrant that called for me to be black-bagged and then hung. Those people. You know, like the ones who sent the bomb to the politician. Those people. The sad part about it is, they put a name out there. And if any of those individuals picked up on that name, what do you think's going to happen to that person? Now here's the messed up part about this, as if that's not bad enough. That person happened to be a real person. I did some investigating on it. Turns out that person has children. A lot of them. Turns out that poor person ended up getting doxxed because they thought it was me. And they put their real location of where they live. And it turns out that if that party gets hurt as a result of this ridiculous childhood prank, that makes you a conspirator to whomever does the harm. See, what these people don't realize in their arrogance and narcissism and their entitlement, their ignorance, and most of all, their irrelevance, is that this world doesn't revolve around them. There are bigger things than them. Innocent people get hurt. Innocent people get killed. Innocent women and children get hurt, stolen, abducted, murdered because of bullshit like this. Now, that party seems to believe that I don't know who they are, which is absolutely ridiculous. Because I just got through having to deal with filing reports because of the threats that person was making. But then they actually go out there and they actually put a name out in the public venue in an area that can be screenshotted after already being reported and already being watched. You put an innocent woman and her children in jeopardy. Not because you even had beef with me. Because you don't. But because you were so concerned about looking good to your frauditor friends that you thought it would be funny, like a 12-year-old. I have a saying that I've said many times on the Virgo Triad channel, and I'm going to say it now because it fits. Never try to destroy someone's life with a lie when yours can be destroyed with the truth. Mark my words. If anything happens to this woman or her children because of your narcissism and ego and entitlement and childish prank, I personally will see to it that you stand trial along with the party that hurts them. You have no right to be putting personal information out on anyone, and you damn sure don't have a right to be throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks. You put an innocent person in jeopardy over your bullshit. You not only should be ashamed of yourself, but you should take your channel down and run for the hills. Because when I say there are people that don't appreciate being exposed, that are on the extreme end of things, I meant it. And if anybody caught that name, and anything happens to that girl, you're going down. I promise you that. I'm sorry that this had to be such a upsetting podcast. But for those trolls out there, those hackers, those idiots and entitled little narcissistic assholes that think it's okay to put out people's personal information, let this be a warning to you. Because this would not be the first case of something like this happening. There have been many. I hope everybody has a great day. And I hope everybody pays close attention to what's going on. There are some people that are trying to bust this community up. And we need to fight twice as hard to make sure that never happens. And to the other creators in the watchdog group, please speak up. We have to stop this from happening because this could get people killed. Everybody have a great day.